Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. So, let us share the link simultaneously. Let us begin the Kirtan. We would do the Kirtan for 2 to 3 minutes and we will continue. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, everyone. So there are two things which I would like to tell you before we start. Not an excuse, but an excuse. Uh, I'm not trying to make an excuse, but it is an excuse after all. So my throat is choked, so sound may not come clearly, and my this one tongue is torn. I don't know how, but it has been torn, and I'm not able to even speak properly. So those are the two things which would make the experience a bit bad. Um, I would try. I would try to fill in. I would try. It does not show up, but again, it might show up, and please do not feel bad about it if it does. So let's continue. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Let's continue from here. We left last time around at this point, and we will continue from here. Okay, so it's about impersonalists. Impersonalists sometimes give the example that if one stands on the stone or a piece of a wood, one certainly stands on the surface of the land because the stone or the wood both rest on the surface of the earth. But it may be replied that if one stands directly on the surface of the earth, he is more secure than if he stands on the wood or a stone that rests on the earth. In other words, taking the shelter of the Paramatma or taking shelter of the impersonal Brahman is not as secure a course as taking shelter of Krishna in Krishna consciousness. Now, this is very important. Uh, so, I would give you a relevant, a pertinent example extending this. So suppose someone is standing on a wood or someone is standing on a stone. He thinks that he is standing on the earth itself. Now that we have seen a lot of landslides, right? Suppose there is a landslide and this person, because he is standing on some stone, he would get down and fall down and he would die. But someone who is standing on the firm surface, right? He is not standing on some side, on some stone. He would be fixated on this journey very strongly. Similarly, if someone thinks himself to be the doer, right? This was Brahman and Bhagwan, right? Now someone is standing on the wood or a stone is Brahman realization. Now someone who thinks himself to be the doer, he is actually standing in the air. Uh, he is standing on the air and he feels that I am all good. Right? We have seen many people who jumps from the top floor and they just feel like they can do anything. But wherever they are falling down, if that is a secure surface, let's say there is this sponge, they would recoil. But what if that sponge is not there? They would fall down and they would end themselves. So someone who's standing on the from the who are coming down from the sky and who are standing on in the air, they're actually falling down, whether they understand or not. Someone who depends upon himself, right? They're standing on the air. They don't know when they would. Uh, yeah, they may end themselves very soon. That is possible. The position of jnanis and yogis is therefore not as secure as the position of the devotee of Krishna. Lord Krishna has therefore advised in Bhagavad Gita that only a person who has lost his senses, okay, only a person who has lost his senses take to the worship of demigod, and it's very logical as well. Uh, it might at first look offending, but it is very logical. Yeah, it's not anything out of the blue. So someone this one who is a slave of his senses, right? What would a slave of senses do? They would ask. What would they ask for? They would ask for some benefits, some materialistic benefits. What is this? Fal prad karm, or materialistic benefit, right? Uh, Now, why would anyone want materialistic benefit? Because of their senses. Now, whom do our senses belong to? Rishikesh, the owner of senses, Krishna. Unless we have lost his senses, unless we do not understand that these belong to Krishna himself, why would we want fal prad karma? Why would we want materialistic benefit? We would not want, right? Only one who has lost his senses would be going for materialistic benefit, and they would be worshipping demigod. As regarding persons attached to the impersonal Brahman, yeah. Srimad Bhagavatam says, "My dear Lord, those who think themselves as liberated by mental speculation and not yet purified of the contamination of material nature because their inability to find the shelter of your lotus feet. Hmm. Although they rise to the transcendental situation of existence in impersonal Brahman, they certainly fall down from the exalted position because they deride your lotus feet. Lord Krishna therefore advises that the worshippers of the demigod are not very intelligent persons because they derive only temporarily exhaustible result. Yeah, this is what we were discussing. Their endeavors are those of less intelligent men. On the other hand, Lord assures that his devotees has no fear of falling. The personified Vedas continued to pray, Dear Lord, considering all points of views, if a person has to worship someone superior to himself, then just out of good behavior, he should stick to the worship of your lotus feet because you are the ultimate controller of creation, maintenance, and dissolution. You are the controller of three worlds Bhuva, Bhuva, and Swa. You are the controller of 14 upper and lower world. 7 up, 7 down. In the middle, we are. Hmm, okay. And you are the controller of three material qualities demigods and persons advanced in spiritual knowledge. Always hear and chant about your transcendental pastimes because this process has a specific potency of nullifying the accumulated result of sinful life. Intelligent persons factually dip into the ocean of your nectarian activities and very patiently hear about them. Thus, they are immediately freed from the contamination of material qualities. They do not have to undergo severe penances and austerity for advancement in the spiritual life. This chanting and hearing of your transcendental pastimes is the easiest process of self realization, simply by submissive oral. Hmm. So, whoever joins, they would be doing this. Look what Krishna says, and why do we focus upon classes? Look, please try and understand. If we are joining in classes, not everyone would be focused on reading, but please understand this. This is very, very important. Simply by submissive oral means by hearing. Simply by submissive oral reception of transcendental message, one's heart is cleansed out of all dirty things. In fact, we should get this on RU. Yeah. So if we just do this, forget each and everything. If we just do this, what would be the result? Okay, I'm extending by three words. What would be the result? Letters I mean. What would be the result? The result would be cleansing of our heart. Oral reception. If we hear. Yeah. So the first way we understand about Krishna is through oral reception only. Yeah. Oral reception or visual seeing of Vigraha, right? Uh, or maybe having prasadam, right? Uh, so these are the ways. Going to this one, going to visit DT, going to visit this one, Krishna's place, right? Shravanam, hmm, hearing is the most important part. That cleanse our heart. It's very difficult to hear. You might be feeling it's very simple. Where is the difficulty? Actually, there is no difficulty. Actually, there is no difficulty, but people find it difficult. Please try and understand. Nothing to be mean. In fact, we all have been through that place. And because we are in this loka, this is a proof, right? Uh, that we have been through that place. What place? We all have been demoniac. A demoniac person would never try to understand about Krishna. That is the reality. A demoniac person would never, never. He would do each and everything to tell you that enough. Knowing about Krishna is not important. Sometimes we sit in the classes, sometimes we sit in association of Vaishnavas. But our mind is like, enough of enough. I've heard it enough times. I know it all. Let me ask you one very simple question. Rather, I would ask and I would answer as well. If you wish, please answer. Yeah. So the question is very, very simple. Bhagavad Gita answers all our problems. But when we read Bhagavad Gita, do we get answers to all our problems? Suppose you have read Bhagavad Gita once, twice, thrice, 10 times. Do you get answers to each and every question? Yeah. Do we get answers fast? Okay. Hmm. Then your life should have been perfect. If you get answers to all your problems, then your life would have been perfect. You would have zero materialistic quality left. That's a very strong statement to say. You would never have anything wrong in your life to happen ever after. If you hear Bhagavad Gita with rapt attention, if you understand Bhagavad Gita completely, then there is no problem left. Zero problem. Is your life having zero problem? Are you completely detached to material world? The thing is very simple. We are not surrendered. We are not surrendered. Please try and focus upon this. Please focus upon this. Please see the cursor. Submissive oral reception. There is no 100% submission. We still do not want to submit to our Guru. We do not want to submit to Krishna. We have read it enough. And you must have seen when you have higher realization versus when you have lower realization, the only missing link is the submission. Also, it is mentioned in Bhagavad Gita that material world is fallible, spiritual world is infallible. Now, through imperfect senses, in this material world, we can be infallible if we turn out to be a spiritual person. If we turn on our spiritual identity, we could be infallible. How come? How come this is true? How can this happen? Very simply. Submissive. Unless there is submission, you would not understand about Krishna. That's the fact. Look, being a Satoguni is not that difficult. Being a Satoguni is not that difficult. Anyone who does good effort could reach to the level of being a Satoguni. But from being a Satoguni to being completely surrendered to Krishna, the path is very difficult. No. Because we have to fight our own ego. We have to fight our own ego. We have to fight our own mind. We have to fight our own senses. Yeah. Ah. because we have material qualities left, whatsoever quantity it may be. But because we have a material attributes left, that's why we struggle. We struggle in this world because of our material qualities, not because of our spiritual identity. The spiritual identity would never make you suffer. So anyone who is suffering, he is suffering only because of material identity. And if you have understood Bhagavad Gita completely, if you have answer to all your problem, you mean to say that you have developed your spiritual identity, which I would generally doubt. But again, if you are associate of Krishna, then you can. So this line is very deep. Uh, please try and understand. If we have submissive oral reception of transcendental message, our heart would be cleansed of all dirty things. Thus, Krishna consciousness becomes sorry. Thus, Krishna consciousness becomes fixed in the heart of a devotee. The great authority. Let me just complete this. It's okay. Hmm. The great authority, Bhishma Deva, has also given the opinion. uh, so, Bhishma Deva has given his opinion that this process of chanting and hearing about the Supreme Personality of Godhead is his highest religious process. And the Taittiriya Taittiriya Upanishad says that worship of Supreme Personality of Godhead is the essence of all Vedic ritualistic performances. Dear Lord, the personified Vedas continued. Hmm. The devotee who wants to elevate himself simply by the process of devotional service, especially by hearing and chanting, very soon comes out of the clutches of the dualities of material existence. By this simple process of penance and austerity, the super soul uh, within the devotee's heart is very pleased and gives the devotee directions so that he may go back home, back to Godhead. It is stated in Bhagavad Gita that one who engages all his activities and senses in the devotional service of the Lord becomes completely peaceful because um, the super soul is satisfied within him. We were talking about this only, yeah, that we have to serve Krishna. We were talking about Rishikesh, right? Uh, we are mad because we are serving ourselves. The Bhagavad Gita confirms that a devotee always absorbed in Krishna consciousness has no anxieties for the material maintenance or protection. Being constantly absorbed in Krishna consciousness, he ultimately achieves the highest perfection. While in material existence, he lives very peacefully and blissfully uh, without caring and anxieties after quitting his body, goes back to home, back to Godhead. Uh, mm. Look, it is written while in material existence. Uh, 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 while in material existence, right? Uh, but those who are constantly absorbed in Krishna consciousness, they would not have material identity. Are you getting it? You may have material existence, but you do not have material identity. Yes, understandable? Is it difficult? You may be in material world, but you do not have material quality. You are a self-realized soul. Once you are a self-realized soul, material attributes go away. You just exhibit your spiritual quality. So this is like Paramhansa. Hmm? They would exhibit only their spiritual qualities. Once they have only spiritual qualities, there's no material quality. So even though when they have material existence, he lives very peacefully and blissfully, without cares and anxiety, and after quitting his body, he goes back home, back to God. The Lord confirms in Bhagavad Gita, my supreme abode is a transcendental place from which, having gone, one never returns to this material world. Anyone who attains the supreme perfection, being engaged in my personal devotional service in the eternal abode, reaches the highest perfection of human life and does not have to come back to the miserable material world. The personified Vedas continue, dear Lord, it is imperative that the living entities be engaged in Krishna consciousness. Imperative. Uh, it is not an option. Yeah, it is compulsion. Dear Lord, it is imperative that the living entities be engaged in Krishna consciousness, always rendering devotional service by such prescribed method as hearing and chanting and executing your orders. If a person is not engaged in Krishna consciousness and devotional service, it is useless for him to exhibit the symptoms of life. Generally, if a person is breathing, he is accepted to be alive. But a person without Krishna consciousness may be compared to a bellows in a blacksmith's shop. The big bellows is a bag of skin which exhales and inhales air, and a human being who simply lives within a bag of skin and bones without taking to Krishna consciousness and loving devotional service is no better than bellows. Similarly, a non devotee's long duration of life is compared to the long existence of the tree, his voracious eating capacity is compared to the eating of dogs and hogs. His enjoyment in sex life is compared to the hogs and goats. The cosmic manifestation has been made possible because of the entrance of the Supreme Personality of Godhead as Mahavishnu within this material world. The total material energy is agitated by the glance of Mahavishnu, and only then does the interaction of three material qualities begin. Therefore, it should be concluded that whatever material facilities we are trying to enjoy are available only due to the mercy of Supreme Personality of Godhead. Within the body, there are five different departments of existence known as Anyamaya, Pranamaya, Manomaya, Vijnanamaya, uh, and Anandamaya. We have seen this when we were talking about Bhagavad Gita. In the beginning of life, every living entity is food consciousness. He is at the Anna stage, food. Hmm. A child or an animal is satisfied only by getting nice food. This stage of consciousness in which the goal is to eat sumptuously is called Annamaya. Anna means food. After this, one lives in the consciousness of being alive, Pranamaya. One can continue his life without being attacked or destroyed. One thinks himself happy. This stage is called pranamaya or consciousness of one's existence. After this stage, when one is situated in the mental platform, his consciousness is called manomaya. Uh, Manomaya is consciousness of mental platform. The materialistic civilization is primarily situated in these three stages: Annamaya, Pranamaya, Manomaya. The first concern of civilization is economic development, next concern is defense after being annihilated, and the next consciousness is mental speculation. The philosophical approach to the values of life. if by the evolutionary process of philosophical life one happens to reach the intellectual platform and understands that he is not this material body but a spiritual soul, he is situated in Vijnanamaya. Then, by the evolution in a spiritual life, he comes to the understanding of Supreme Lord or the Super Soul, Supreme Soul. When one develops his relationship with him and execute devotional service, that stage of life is called Krishna consciousness, the Anandamaya. Right? Material life is situated in uh, Annamaya, Pranamaya, and Manomaya. The spiritual life begins from Vijnanamaya, who understand himself to be soul, and the culmination is uh, uh, Anandamaya. Anand is knowing about Krishna, right? Sachidanand. When one develops his relationship with him and execute devotional service, that stage is called Krishna consciousness, the Anandamaya stage. Anandamaya is a blissful life of knowledge and eternity, as it is said in Vedanta Sutra. Anandamaya Abhyasa. Uh, the Supreme Brahman and the subordinate Brahman, or the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the living entities are both joyful by nature. As long as the living entities are situated in the lower four stages of life, and Annamaya, Pranamaya, Manomaya, and Vijnanamaya, they are considered to be material. Um, mm, they are considered to be in material condition of life. But as soon as one reaches the stage of Anandamaya, he is the liberated soul. This Anandamaya stage is explained in Bhagavad Gita as the Brahma Bhuta stage. There it is said that the Brahma Bhuta stage of life there is no anxiety or hankering. This stage begins when one is equally disposed towards all living entities, and it then expands to the stage of Krishna consciousness, in which one always hankers to render service unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This hankering for advancement in devotional service is not the same as hankering for sense gratification in material existence. In other words, hankering remains in spiritual life, but it becomes purified. Similarly, when our senses are purified, they are freed from material stages, namely Annamaya, Pranamaya, Manomaya, and Vijnanamaya, and they become situated in the highest stage, Anandamaya, or the blissful life of Krishna consciousness. The Mayavadi philosophers consider Anandamaya to be the stage to be merged in Supreme. To them, Anandamaya means that a super soul and the individual soul becomes one. But the real fact is that oneness does not mean merging into the Supreme and losing one's own individual existence. We were talking about this in Bhagavatam class. Merging into the spiritual existence is the living entity's realization of qualitatively oneness with the Supreme Lord and his aspect of eternity and knowledge. But the actual Anandamaya blissful stage is attained when one is engaged in the devotional service. This is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita. Mad bhaktim labhate param. Okay. Here, Lord Krishna states that Brahma Bhuta Anandamaya stage is complete only when there is an exchange of love. So, what is the ultimate goal of life? Develop love for God. Uh, Only when there is an exchange of love between the supreme and the subordinate living entities. Unless one comes to the Anandamaya stage, he is breathing is like the breathing of bellows in a blacksmith shop. His duration of life is just like that of a tree. He is no better than the lower animals, just like camels, hawks, and dogs. Undoubtedly, the eternal living entity cannot be annihilated at any point, but the lower species of life exist in a miserable condition. Whereas one who is engaged in the devotional service of the Supreme Lord is situated in the pleasurable or anandamaya status of life. The different stages described above are all in relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, although in all circumstances there exist both the Supreme Personality of Godhead and the living entities. The difference is that the Supreme Personality of Godhead always exists in the Anandamaya stage, whereas the subordinate living entities, because of their minute position as fragmental portion of the Supreme Lord, are prone to fall down to the other stage of life. Although in all these stages, both the Supreme Lord and the living entity exist, the Supreme Personality of hmm, uh, yeah, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is always transcendental to our concept of life. Whether we are in bondage or in liberation, the whole cosmic manifestation becomes possible. Uh, The whole cosmic manifestation becomes possible by the grace of the Supreme Lord. It exists by the grace of Supreme Lord, and when it is annihilated, it merges into the existence of Supreme Lord, as if the Supreme Lord is the supreme existence, the cause of all causes. Therefore, the conclusion is that without development of Krishna consciousness, one's life is simply a waste of time. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. So, uh, yes, we can use this in our USA. Yeah, Hare Krishna. Rashi Mataji, would you like to continue? Or should I continue?
Krishna Prabhuji.
Yeah, Hare
For
Krishna.
those who are very materialistic and cannot understand the situation of the spiritual world, the abode of Krishna, great sages have recommended the yogic process whereby one gradually rises from meditation on the abdomen, which is called Muldhara or Manipuraka, Manipuraka meditation. Mula- Muladhara and the Manipuraka are technical terms which refer to the intestines within the abdomen. Grossly materialistic persons think that economic development is of for most importance because they are under the impressions that a living entity exists only by eating. Such grossly materialistic persons forget that although we may eat as much as we like, if the food is not digested in the produce, if the food is not digested, it produces the troubles of indigestion and acidity. Therefore, eating is not in itself the cause of the vital energy of life. For digestion of eatables, we have to take shelter of another superior energy, which is mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita as Vaisa Varna. Varna. The Lord Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita that he helps the digestion in the form of uh, Vaishvarna, Vanara, Vaishvanara. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is all pervasive. Therefore, the presence in the stomach as Vaishvarna is not extraordinary. Krishna is actually present everywhere. The Vaishvarna, therefore, marks his body with temples of Vishnu. He first marks a tilaka temple on the abdomen, then on the chest, then between the collarbones, then on the forehead, and gradually he marks top of the head. The Brahma, mm, the Brahma Randhara, the 13 temples of Tilaka marked on the body of a Vaishnava or known as follows. On the forehead is the temple of Lord Keshava. On the belly is the temple of Lord Narayana. On the chest is the temple of Lord Madhava. And on the throat between the two collarbones is the temple of Lord Govinda. On the right side of the waist is the temple of Lord Vishnu. On the right arm, the temple of Lord Madhusudana. And on the right side of the collarbone, the temple of Lord Trivikarma. Similarly, on the left side of the waist is the temple of Lord Vamanadeva. Vamanadeva. On the left arm, the temple of Sridhara. On the left side of the collarbone, the temple of Rishikesha. On the upper back, the temple called Padmanabha. Padma, Padmanabha. And on the lower back, the temple called Damodara. On the top of the head is the temple called Vasudeva. This is the process of meditation on the Lord's situation in the different parts of the body. But for those who are not Vaishnavas, great sage recommended meditation on the bodily concept of life. Meditation on the intestines, on the heart, on the throat, on the eyebrows, on the forehead, and then on the top of the head. Some of the sages is the disclip succession.
Discyclic succession.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Disciplic succession from the great saint Aruna meditate on the heart because the super soul stays within the heart along with the living entity. This is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita 15th chapter wherein the Lord states, I am situated in everyone's heart.
Hare
Hare
Krishna, let me continue. As a part of the devotion service, Vaishnavas protect the body for the service of the Lord, but those who are gross materialists accept the body as the self. They worship the body as the yogic process of meditation on the different bodily parts such as Manipuraka, Dharana, Dhara, Dhara, Hridaya. Gradually rising from the Brahmarandhara on the top of the head, first class yogi who has attained perfection in the practice of yoga system ultimately passes through the Brahmarandhara to any one of the planets in either the material or spiritual worlds. How a yogi can transfer himself to another planet is vividly described in the second canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. In this regard, Sukadeva Goswami has recommended that the beginners worship the Virat Purusha, the gigantic universal form of the Lord, who who one who cannot believe that Lord can be worshipped with equal success in the deity or urcha form, or who cannot concentrate on this form is advised to worship the universal form of the Lord. The lower part of the universe is considered the feet and legs of the Lord's universe. The middle part of the universe is considered the navel or abdomen of the Lord. And the upper planetary system, such as Jana Loka and Maharloka, are the heart of the Lord. And the topmost planetary system, Brahmaloka, is considered to be the top of the Lord's head. There are different processes recommended by great sages according to the position of the worshipper, but the ultimate aim of the meditational yogic process is to go back home, back to Godhead. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, anyone who reaches the highest planet, the abode of Krishna, or even the Vaikuntha planet, never has to come down again to this miserable material condition of life. The Vedic recommendation, therefore, is that one make the lotus feet of the Lord the target of all efforts. the target of all one's efforts. Tad Vishnu Paramam Padam. The Vishnu planets or the Vishnu Loka are situated above all material planets. These Vaikuntha planets are known as Sanatana Dhama. Hmm. Again, Sanatan Dham. They are eternal. They are never annihilated, nor even by the annihilation of this material world. The conclusion is that human being does not fulfill the mission of life by worshipping the Supreme Lord and does not go back home, back to Godhead. It is to be understood that He is breathing just like the blacksmith's bellows, living just like a tree, eating just like a camel, and having sex just like dogs and hogs. Thus, he has been frustrated in fulfilling the specific purpose of human life. The next prayer. Uh, okay, can we continue? Yes. The next prayer of the personified Vedas to the Lord concerns his entering to the different species of life. It is stated in Bhagavad Gita in the 14th chapter that every species and form of life, the spiritual part and parcel of the Supreme Lord is present. The Lord Himself claims in the Gita that He is the seed giving Father of all forms and species, who therefore must all be considered as Son of the Lord. The entrance of the Supreme Lord into everyone's heart as Paramatma sometimes bewilders the impersonalist into equating the living entity with the Supreme Lord. They think both the Supreme Lord and the living individual soul enter into various bodies. So, where is the distinction? Why should individual souls worship the Paramatma or Super Soul? According to them, the Super Soul and the individual soul are on the same level. They are one without any difference between them. There is a difference, however, between the super soul and the individual soul. And this is explained in Bhagavad Gita, 15th chapter, wherein the Lord says that although he is situated with the with the living entity in the same body, he is superior. He is dictating or giving intelligence to the individual soul from within. It is clearly stated in Gita that Lord gives intelligence to the individual soul, and that both memory and forgetfulness are due to the influence of the super soul. No one can act independently of the sanction of super soul. We were talking about this in Bhagavatam class yesterday itself, and day before yesterday. Providence, luck, uh, uh, God's will, right? Uh, we were talking about this many a times. The individual souls act. Sorry. The individual soul acts according to his past karma reminded by the Lord. The nature of the individual soul is forgetfulness. But the presence of the Lord within the heart reminds him of what he wanted to do in his past life. The intelligence of the individual soul is exhibited like a fire in the wood. Although fire always fire, it is exhibited in the size proportionate to the size of the wood. Similarly, although the individual soul is uh, quantitatively one with the Supreme Lord, he exhibits himself according to the limitation of his present body. But the Supreme Lord or Super Soul is unlimited. It is stated to be Eka Rasa. Eka means one and Rasa means mellow. The transcendental position of the Supreme Lord is that of eternity, blissful, bliss and full of knowledge. His position, Eka Rasa, does not change in the slightest when he becomes a witness or an advisor to the individual soul in each individual body. But the individual soul from the Lord Brahma down to the ant exhibits his spiritual potency according to the present body. The demigod are in the same category with the individual souls in the body of human beings or in the body of lower animal. Intelligent persons, therefore, do not worship different demigods who are simply infinitesimal representatives of Krishna's manifest in conditioned bodies. The individual soul can exhibit his power only in proportion to the shape and constitution of the body. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, however, can exhibit his full potency in any shape or form without any change. The Mayavadi philosopher thesis that God and individual soul are one and the same cannot be accepted because the individual soul has to develop his power according to the development of different types of his bodies. The individual soul in the body of a baby cannot show the full power of a grown man. And but the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, even when lying on the lap of his mother as a baby, could exhibit his full power by killing Putana or other demons who attacked him. Thus, the spiritual potency of Supreme Personality of Godhead is said to be Eka Rasa or without change. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, therefore, uh, is the only worshipable object, and this is perfectly known to persons who are uncontaminated by the modes of material nature. In other words, only the liberated soul can worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Less intelligent Mayavadis take to the worship of demigod, thinking the demigod and Supreme Personality of Godhead to be at the same level. The personified Vedas continue to offer their obeisances. Dear Lord, they prayed. After many, many births, those who have actually become wise take to the worship of your lotus feet in complete knowledge. This is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita, wherein the Lord says, after many births, great soul or Mahatma surrenders unto Lord, knowing well that Vasudev, Krishna, is the cause of all causes. Vedas continued. As already explained, since mind, intelligence, and senses have been given to us by God, when these instruments are actually purified, there is no alternative but to engage all in the devotional service of the Lord. A living entity's entrapment in different species of life is due to the misapplication of his mind, intelligence, and senses in material activities. We saw this in today's class. We were talking about uh, this one. Bhagavad Gita has answers to all our problems. Yeah. A living entity's entrapment in different species of life is due to the misapplication of his mind, intelligence, and senses in material activities. Various kind of bodies are awarded as a result of living entities' action, and they are created by the material nature according to the living entity's desire. Because a living entity desires and deserves a part of the body, a particular kind of body, it is given to him by the material nature under the order of the Supreme Lord. So, we often call this in Hindi, जिस प्रकृति के चाहोगे उस प्रकृति के हो जाओगे. Whatever you wish, Krishna would provide. Yeah. Okay, Hare Krishna. So we would be continuing in Srimad Bhagavatam, third canto, next time onwards. This is a very long chapter, isn't it? Let's do Ashna Praman Mantra. Glorification by Vedas. So it's very good. Uh, yeah. Anyone who wants to start, or should I start? Oh, okay.
Hare
Let
Krishna
Yeah,
Prabhuji.
yeah. Ashimati, Rashimati.
Hare Krishna. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha
वाञ्छकल्पातरुभ्यश्च
कृपा सिन्धुभ एव च
कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च
पतितानां पावनेभ्यो
पतितानां पावनेभ्यो
वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः।
वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। अनंत कोटि वैष्णववृंद की जय।
जय
हिज डिवाइन कृष्ण प्रपात की
जय
जय। भगवद गीता की
जय
जय। श्रीमद् भागवतम की
जय
जय। सभी भक्तों की जय।
जय।
हरे
हरे
कृष्णा
कृष्णा
कृष्ण
कृष्ण
कृष्णा
कृष्णा
हरे
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 हरे हरे
हरे
राम
हरे
राम राम
राम
हरे
हरे
हरे।
हरे
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 कृष्णा
कृष्णा कृष्ण
कृष्ण
कृष्णा
कृष्णा
हरे
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 हरे राम राम राम।
हरे हरे
हरे
हरे
कृष्णा
कृष्णा कृष्ण
कृष्ण
कृष्णा हरे हरे
राम
हरे
राम
राम राम हरे हरे
हरे।
Hare Krishna. Many thanks for everyone to join in, and thank you. And we would be ending the session. Yes, if anyone has any question, we may take it up. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. You must be feeling very contradictory, na? Once I have told Bhagavad Gita answers all our problem, but do we have answers to everything? Uh, we have read Bhagavad Gita, so we have answers to everything. Counterintuitive, doesn't it? Doesn't it sound counterintuitive? Prabhuji, have you lost your senses? Why are you saying so? Bhagavad Gita has answers to all our problem, and then you say that you do not have answers to everything. It's because of our inability. Bhagavad Gita has answers to everything. Our inability is that we are not able to understand. Yeah. Okay. No questions. So stopping the live stream.